This is a tale of woe, where a band of misfits and allies will come together on a quest of self-discovery and rekindling the thrill of adventure.
And also, I'm just a big anime fan and love to talk about it. Is the show worth watching? Let's find out. Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. My name is David Stylz, and for my returning subscribers, it's always a pleasure to see you guys. And for anyone that's new to the channel, it is a pleasure to meet your acquaintance. Over this last weekend, I was actually able to have the time to finally binge all the way through and finish the second season of The 7 Deadly Sins. And my first initial reaction when I first ever watched the show last year on the first season was I genuinely really enjoyed the show. It caught my attention right away. I didn't feel that anything was dull at the moment. They introduced the characters gradually fairly well. And overall, I was ready to watch the entire thing. Keep in mind, I'm one of those people that hates spoiling things for anybody, so I'm not necessarily going to be vague when I talk about this, but I'm just going to give you what I noticed and things I just didn't approve of as a total anime in general. First things first, if you are a huge fan of any type of fantasy, mages, fighting, some comedy, within that realm, pretty much if you're like a fairy tale fan, which is kind of like the initial vibes I got from this anime, this is a great area of pretty much what this anime is similar to. The short summary of what this anime really is about is it's about a princess and a kingdom, and she is off to go find out these misfits who were once, powerful, famous beings, and because the kingdom is in dire need of help, and so she's on a quest on her own to go seek them out. And they introduce each character, they're way differently apart from each other. There's nothing similar between them, which is really cool about them. So that was one thing I greatly appreciated about the character development that you'll notice from these characters. One of the first things I noticed about this when I first started watching it is the animation itself. It's clean, and they really chose bright, vibrant colors throughout the entire thing. It really just grabs your attention. There's really not a lot of dark color choices that you'll see throughout this entire series. Interestingly enough, the entire plot and storyline of this whole series is fair. I didn't find it overly exciting, and the reason that it kind of took that part away from me is because a lot of the characters are OP in this. They do, try to use focal points in fight scenes and, twists in the story to make it seem like all hope is lost. But I can definitely tell that they always try to compliment or always show that there's always hope for the characters. There's a couple times where it may seem like, oh, they're gone, they could be gone, and they might be dead. I'm not going to spoil it. Some of them might be killed off, but it definitely you definitely have a sense of security for some of these characters. If they die, it's going to be really devastating and really hard for me to believe it. Interesting enough, the music itself is not bad at all. It didn't have a straight out focal point or any part during any of the popular themes that they were playing alongside where I was just like, oh, well, I've got to listen to this on the side because it really, is going to give me a sense of nostalgia or anything like that. Again, it goes well with the plot itself, but it's not like, One Piece or Fairy Tail or other animes where they have such an iconic theme that you'll recognize it on the get-go. For me personally, I didn't experience that, but I'm not saying the music's bad, but for me, it's not something I would go out of my way to listen to independently on my own. One thing I really greatly appreciate about this entire anime is the pacing they do with each episode and the storyline itself. You're never bored at all. They don't waste any time going straight into action, going into the next scene or part of the series that continues on with someone else's story, which is fascinating. There's not a lot of monologuing. Everyone is just, doing their own thing, or they're really actually like, it's like an everyday quest. Every adventure's new. So for me, it really, kept me entertained throughout the entire series. So that was one of the reasons that I really greatly appreciated and actually enjoyed this series. I will point out, because a lot of fans have talked about this, and I did experience this before I even, went on general discussions about it. There seem to be a couple points in this series where it does seem like it skips forward a little bit. Not like everyone is generations age apart now, like that much time has gone forward. It just seems like a couple scenes or an episode or two got skipped around. Which, is going to catch you off guard if you've been watching it from the beginning. But at the same time, it kind of redeems itself, and you kind of just ignore it, and because the storyline still continues on where it was at. So that was one little glitch type thing I didn't really enjoy about that. But again, it is forgivable. So I wouldn't say that's the thing that would ruin it at all for you. A few things about this series that actually really makes it stand out is the animated fight scenes. They put a lot of work into it. You get excited every time there is one. Yeah, so for that, I really appreciate. They definitely, they definitely are not short on ever in this entire series on complimenting the female form. It really, they insinuate that every episode. So, because at first glance, when you look at it, it's, if you didn't know it was an anime, just on quick pictures and stuff, you might think, oh, it looks like it could be for kids. And then you watch an episode and you're like, oh, well, I probably not. But to each his own. I just, it's an anime, so it's no surprise. One thing that stood out that I thought was really cool was, obviously, every character has their backstory, and they do take their time to show that. But they also introduce side characters that were a part of their lives or get introduced in the storyline, and they actually give them a considerable amount of time in the episode, which, is enough where you notice them and, you might fall in love with them for the character themselves. So for that, I thought was really cool, because in some animes, you barely see them, they just get knocked off, and then that was it. So I thought that was interesting that every character they seem to introduce really has their moment, you could say. And so, again, it's just something I don't see all the time in an anime. And for that, it actually works because their pacing is pretty good. It's never slow, never a lot of monologuing. So they actually fit in these 20 to 30 minute time slots of each episode to actually give a lot of these characters some good screen time. So for that, I truly appreciate, and again, is another reason that I enjoyed it. So I've already discussed a few things that, I wasn't a big fan of in this anime. And I gotta point out one more thing that I just didn't really appreciate at all. And that's the accessibility you can watch this anime. It seems Netflix took over it. I've tried to check out Funimation. Don't see all the episodes there. I don't know if I checked out Crunchyroll, but I usually don't, go there too often. There's only a few animes I ever will watch on there. So remarkably enough, Netflix is the way to go. And it says season 3 on there. It's season 2. I don't know why they did that. It's a typo, but there's only 2 seasons right now that it's available. The final note I will say about this before I give my final verdict is the voice acting itself. Thought it was fine. Didn't see anything over insinuated. I didn't think that there were any characters that were lackluster in expressing their emotion while they were portraying the character. So all in all, nothing stood out where I was just like, okay, well, we'll see if we can forgive that later on. No, all in all, I thought it was fine. With that said, my final verdict for this show is going to be 7 out of 10. Now, the reason I'm going to give this a 7 instead of an 8, because a lot of animes I usually will just go straight to an 8 if I love it from the get-go, is because a lot of things balance out at a 7, which is, for me, the music, the animation, the plot line, the OP characters, and the accessibility. That kind of contributed to that factor, too. All in all, though, I mean, is it worth watching? Absolutely. You will love this anime, and if not love it, you'll at least really enjoy it, and I would certainly say it's definitely worth the watch at least one time. Guys, I just want to thank you again for taking the time to check out my content, and hopefully, mention anything in the comments below of what you thought of this anime. Is there an anime I should check out or review or recommend for you guys? I watch anime all the time. I am just a hardcore fan for it, and I just love discussing it with anyone else who shares that passion alongside with me. Keep in mind, guys, I upload content every week, so make sure to hit the bell icon. That way you don't miss any of the content as soon as I upload it.
And until we meet again, farewell, my friends.